Hello everyone, my name is Evgenia, and in this video I am going to talk about my biggest passion when it comes to astrology, about two planets, one which shapes our reality and one which dissolves it, in a sign which can literally mean the end of the world as we know it. Welcome to my presentation about Saturn being co-present with Neptune in the sign of Pisces and their retrograde phases. I will be giving you the dates, current and past. I will be dissecting their meanings in little particles. What happened the last time when they were together and what they will bring now, globally but also personally for each sign. Stay tuned and don't forget to support my channel with subscribing to it so I can be giving you more forward on. So let me give the dates for these transits. Saturn entered Pisces on March 7th and will stay in the sign of Pisces until February 13th, 2026. He went in retrograde on June 17th and will stay in retrograde motion until November 4th. The duration of Saturn through the sign of Pisces will be around 2 to 3 years, and he will spend in retrograde motion around 5 months. The last time Saturn was in Pisces from May 21st, 1993 until April 7th, 1996. Neptune entered Pisces on April 4th, 2011 and he will stay in Pisces until February 13th, 2026. The last time when Neptune was in retrograde in the sign of Pisces was from June 28, 2022 until December 3rd, 2022. He went again in retrograde on June 30th, 2023 and he will stay in retrograde until December 6, 2023. The duration of Neptune in a sign is around 14 years and he spends in retrograde around 158 days. The last time when Neptune was in the sign of Pisces was 1848 until 1862. 1848 was also the year when Saturn was co-present in the sign of Pisces with Neptune. Before I go on, it's very important to see what each planet represents. So Neptune, it has to do with the transcendent, which means going beyond the ordinary. It has to do with ideals, myth and religion, images, visual art, with compassion. He is formless. His aim is to dissolve boundaries, but also to merge. It has all to do with unity and wholeness. On the other side, Saturn has to do with our material and physical reality. He rules structure, matter, form. He has to do with the process of aging. He rules time. He rules the rational organization, consequences of past doings, discipline and duty, security and control, and it has all to do with the traditional foundations and structures. Neptune in Pisces is very strong. He is the modern ruler of Pisces, while Saturn doesn't like the foggy and messy home of Pisces. He likes his order and structure. In Pisces, he would like to sort things out, to organize them, but in the vast ocean of consciousness, he can only do so little. Anyway, I like this placement of Saturn through the sign of Pisces because this is a rare occasion when we can actually see and feel what Neptune in Pisces is all about. Whatever touches Saturn becomes visible. Saturn gives structure to things, but of course not overnight because he is the lord of time and karma. Through my research, I have found that any planet which has been discovered was under aspect to Saturn, Neptune too. So this is a good way to see how really Saturn gives structure and matter to things. Because Saturn and Neptune are in retrograde, this effect will be even stronger and many old or lost things can reappear on the surface, sometimes literally. Because it is only 1 month since they went retrograde and I have already encountered so many stories relating to the themes of Saturn and Neptune, I have decided to make my Astro Journal section in this presentation. These are all Saturn-Neptune retrograde stories. On July 18th, Australian and his dog rescued after 3 months adrift in Pacific. Saturn in Pisces can literally mean to be lost, isolated at sea, and the Saturn retrograde is bringing that which is lost on surface. Another Saturn-Neptune retrograde story. Dozens of refugees left without water or food in the desert after being expelled from Tunisia following racial tensions. Again, what is the best place to be isolated at? After the big and vast ocean? Well, of course, deserts. Neptune and Pisces here are the retrograde part, and the retrograde is the why behind it, old racial tensions. Another planet discovered has a massive ocean and it's not too far from Earth. Again, Saturn is making a matter far from our eyes and understanding, visible and physical in our 3D reality. The accident with the Titanic submarine is also very connected to Neptune and Saturn. Neptune rules large vehicles and the sea, and Saturn is the reason why, in the first place, that submarine had started its journey to visit a long-lost artifact. Ruins of a private theater belonging to the 1st century Roman Emperor Nero have been unearthed in the Italian capital, just meters from the Vatican. The reappearing of something so old and sacred is a theme of Saturn and Neptune, especially because Neptune rules theaters. Now I would like to go in the past in the year 8048, when Saturn and Neptune were both co-present in the sign of Pisces, both in retrograde motion. This is significant because later I will be correlating the events from 8048 to present time. The year 1848 will be always remembered as the People's Spring, or the 8048 revolutions. Those were series of republican revolts against European monarchies beginning in Sicily and spreading to France, Germany, Italy, and the Austrian Empire. They all ended in failure and repression, and were followed by widespread disillusionment among liberals. The revolution was successful in France alone, leading to increased voting rights beyond the previous restriction to aristocratic landowners. It is interesting to see what has been happening in France lately. There are riots which originated from societal challenges such as unemployment, poverty, discrimination, and strained relations between minority communities and law enforcement. Those riots were sparked even more after 2 young men were chased to their death by police. And in France, since then, unimaginable things started happening. Breaking structures and buildings, even dangerous animals from the zoo ended up on the streets. It will be very interesting to see what will be happening with France in the next period. Now let's translate these revolutions astrologically. Revolutions are all about channeling the collective ideal. Neptune, against old and rigid political structures. Saturn, this is a powerful time which will bring change. Change is a part of the mutual modality, which Pisces represent. Change must happen, and it will be chaotic even more when the conjunction of Neptune and Saturn occurs in Aries. Until then, many political systems will undergo dissolvement. Climate changes and natural catastrophes will reach its peak. After all, Pisces represent the garbage in our world, but also the clutter we were in ourselves. I know that this is not your typical astrology report. It comes from someone with Saturn in Pisces, and Saturn likes to have his facts right. Now let's go and see what these energies will look like for the 12 signs. For Aries rising people, Saturn and Neptune will be retrograde in your 12th house. Saturn also rules your 10th house, so the 12th and the 10th house will be interconnecting somehow. For many of you, this can mean change of a career path or just taking some time off. You will be focusing more on your mental health, which will include spiritual practices. For some of you, your relationship with your father or your boss will be changing. For Taurus rising people, Saturn and Neptune will be retrograding in your 11th house. Saturn also rules your ninth house. At this time, you will be rethinking your place in society. How do you serve your community? And maybe you will decide to become a part of some kind of institution. Your ideals and belief system might undergo a change also, and some of you might meet very important person who will teach you a lot. For Gemini rising people, Saturn and Neptune will be retrograding in your 10th house, bringing you changes in your career. Saturn also rules your 8th house, so this transit can involve money of other people, loans, insurance, and also you will experience dissolvement of those matters. Cancer rising people. Saturn and Neptune will be retrograding in your ninth house. Some of you might decide to go back in school, some of you will be visiting a temple or an old place dear to you. Saturn rules your seventh house, and this can bring reigniting passion with an ex lover or a friendship with an old friend. For Leo rising people, Saturn and Neptune will be retrograde in your 8th house, making you rethink your relationship with in laws, money of other people, revisit an insurance plan, etc. Saturn rules your 6th house, so problems with reproductive organs can come up if you are female or alone waiting money from a coworker can finally be returned. For Virgo, Saturn and Neptune will be retrograding in your seventh house, bringing up old issues with a partner which now might be screaming for a change. Saturn rules your fifth house, so this can be a battle over custody or something involving children. For Libra rising people, Saturn and Neptune will be transiting your sixth house, so old health problem can arise on surface. You will be rethinking your relationship to your body and dietary habits. Changes at workplace are very possible. Saturn rules your fourth house, so you might be deciding that you want to stay at home and take the rest that you deserve, or maybe even start working from home. For Scorpio rising people, Saturn and Neptune will be retrograding your fifth house. You might be revisiting an old creative project, you might be deciding to finally follow your wishes and starting your own business, or focusing on your children and revisiting past limitations with them. Saturn rules your third house, so you might be also starting a course which will later become your source of living. For Sagittarius rising people, Saturn and Neptune will be transiting your fourth house, so past family karma can arise to the surface. Some of you will have to take care of an old parent, and some of you will be inheriting property. Saturn rules your second house, so you might be revisiting how your parents brought you up, the values that they gave you, etc. For Capricorn rising people, Saturn and Neptune are retrograding in your third house. You might be finally getting done all those courses which you've started long time ago. You might be revisiting your relationship with a sibling and clearing old karma with them. Saturn rules your first house, your physical body. So, for some of you, this change will be physically visible, like losing weight or getting pregnant. For Aquarius rising people, Saturn and Neptune will be retrograding in your second house, rethinking your relationship to money, resources, and things you value. We will be a team with this transit. Saturn rules your 12th house, so you might be getting rid of old toxic patterns that don't serve you anymore. For Pisces rising people, Saturn and Neptune are retrograde in your first house, so changes with your physical body and appearance are very possible. Saturn rules the skin and our bones, so an old existing problem with those things might require your attention. Saturn rules your 11th house of good karma, so you might be getting a gift, a completion of an old wish.